Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Pete, and buckle up because I think we got a doozy of a news episode today.
Yeah, we got a lot of catching up to do. We've both been on the road for a while. I feel like I just got done, and it was a long one as usual, but lots of great updates. So there's some events we've got to probably catch up on. Some updates actually that came out of Workday Rising. That's a little different. Sometimes that's a surprise party that already happened, as I like to call it. But there were some developments there I think are really important. We had UKG Aspire, and then there's just a number of other things that have been going on. I thought we could just touch on those and
Yeah,
share here to wrap the year up. So yeah.
take us through them. I know we
All
we
right.
can't cover everything, but we try to get the things that are important or that we have
Yes.
something interesting and maybe some good insights to share, right? That's
Yeah.
our rule of thumb.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get started with UKG Aspire, because I don't think we actually got to do
No,
this
we
one
didn't.
yet.
We
Now,
did
we've done
not.
a lot of UKG content. So candidly, you could go back and listen to, say, Innovation Day in spring. You could listen to some of the other episodes we did, and you could find a lot of information that is now being shared at Aspire, just like ADP shows at their Innovation Day. And then when it gets released, you're like, oh, here it is. And then Workday does the same thing, right? Has an Innovation Day and summit with the analysts. And then by the time Rising comes around, you start to see these things come to the roadmap. So,
That's
or
right.
come off
And
the roadmap. So
that's
yeah,
actually the fun for me about us pairing up because
yeah,
analysts get this different view, usually a little bit ahead of the game, right?
yeah.
And then the practitioners get to see it later. So,
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah. We
right.
have a very, very close relationship with these vendors and stay very close to what's going on as it develops. So yeah, we're very privileged that way, and I really appreciate the vendors that take time with us. So yeah,
Awesome.
let's jump into UKG. Look, there is a lot to talk about here. I mean, tons of AI, tons of agentic. I think they're doing a lot more work, or really in a great position. I've talked about this before, to orchestrate more of the HCM, WFM, on and on experience than any other vendor, just because they have such a depth of the WFM part of things on the operational side. They're gaining more HCM. They do plenty of payroll. OneView is doing really well globally. So there's a lot of weaving together that I think UKG can do that you're starting to see come together with Bright and other things. And again, you can go look at my LinkedIn and my Twitter. I tweeted about a lot of this stuff or X, excuse me, as it develops. So at the event, so you can see a lot of that. I even filmed a video giving my opinion at the UKG event with UKG, so you could check that out. But I thought we could just touch on a couple things that I think might have slipped under the radar that people should keep an eye on, Julie,
Okay.
if that's
Yeah,
cool.
no, that's
So
ideal because we want
yeah,
those insights, right? So
yeah.
lay it on us.
So both of these, I would say, are going to center on acquisitions they made that might have been a little bit quiet in terms of them not making a massive announcement, but then introducing a product with these things at Aspire. And some of that closed ahead of Aspire, and some of that closed probably around, and maybe we'll close after. I think most of these are private, so probably closes right away. But I think the first one that you should take notice of is the new, what they're calling high volume frontline hiring and the real time labor insights. And so what that is really UKG's acquisition of their high volume hiring partner, the startup called Chatter, CHATTR, is now giving them that power to run their high volume hiring, which is going to be huge for the frontline workforce, which is, as you know, where they're focused. And another part of that offering, and you can go look at this on their website. There is a press release about this as well that talks about both of these. You'll see some discussions about the new product offering called Dynamic Labor Management. So together, these things are going to really help with what I would call workforce alignment, right? Figuring out what skills you need, when they're available, where they're available at, who's the right fit for the roles and skills and things that you're doing, and having all the insights and information together with the technology to go and actually execute on acquiring and maybe putting that talent into play. So think of dynamic labor management as an add-on to the strategic workforce planning, the focus we have on labor management and cost management and all of that. Getting much, much closer. I would say you could call some of that finance in a lot of ways. The financial planning and some of the other stuff that we've seen. So it's kind of making that bridge over, right? That could straddle HR and finance in some ways. And so yeah, lot of help here for the frontline workforce
Yeah. I was going to ask
employers.
is so it's
Yeah.
close I mean, is it closer to the scheduling and the time component that usually folks are
Well,
looking at or the FP&A
both.
side, right? It sounds like it's kind of bridging in
Yeah,
between.
both. but also helping you now with Chatter go and actually acquire, right, some ATS to help you get that talent. So it's kind of holistic picture there. And I think, again, go back to my orchestration. That's the future, I think, of all the HCMs and your ERPs probably, is an orchestration layer that is bringing and commanding everything together, pulling your data together, and then helping you orchestrate all of your processes and activities. So, yeah, so two things here really working together: the Chatter acquisition for rapid frontline hiring, along with the dynamic labor management, which builds on the strategic workforce planning and the workforce management capabilities that they already had. So, yeah, so that's a very cool one. Another one that I would tell you to just draw your eyes to is, and congratulations, right? We saw the Frontline Worker Network come about. Shout out to Chime, TurboTax, and I believe OnePay was the other one, that is going to provide some personalization around that frontline workforce, almost like a marketplace to help them solve problems of their own. And then the other one I really want to get your eye on is this other acquisition of a partner that UKG had called Mo. And what that is it's going, you'll see UKG Beacon. Again, there's another press release about this from the week. And really what this is really a rewards and recognition and engagement and culture building solution. So it's the tech to help you create real time recognition, leverage predictive engagement sort of nudges, and personalize and be able to help employees at an individual level. So again, I think they're just bringing together, filling more white spaces in an already very robust platform. And remember, great places to work data, other things like that are all those little culture building tools to help companies, really round out that award-winning culture sort of mantra and approach that hopefully that they're looking to emulate. And these are the types of things that I think are going to fit into that
Yeah,
and
and
help that solution.
listen, they're moving swiftly with that. I have a client that has chosen UKG and they're going down that path, and no sooner have they begun to get their hands dirty with that than, a use case for Beacon shows up immediately.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, the attach rate and kind of what sort of success um Beacon
yeah.
drives with that Mo acquisition.
Yeah, and Mo, I believe, is going to be specifically with, if I recall correctly, I believe that's going to be focused on Ready as well. And there were a number of other, just so many things that were just updated by UKG around Bright and the agentic capabilities. Lots of help for frontline, lots of help for the payroll practitioners and users. So, yeah, I think UKG is really just. Pedal to the metal like everybody else, right? Trying to proliferate the next thing and build out those use cases, build out their AI around use cases that are going to move the needle right away. And I really love that about all of this stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Excellent.
cool stuff.
Okay. Good
Okay,
things not to miss. Let's move
yeah,
forward. Where else are you taking us today?
yeah. All right, let's go. Let's go to Barcelona. Where I wrapped up
Okay.
Workday Rising EMEA. I was privileged. Thank you to Workday for bringing me to that one. I was actually privileged to go to both this year. An abbreviated stop, as you know, we talked about. You and I did a debrief on Rising in the U.S. And generally, there's not a ton of new stuff to talk about coming out of Rising EMEA. But this year, I would say that is not the case. There was quite a few exciting things that were announced that I think are really relevant that add on to what we'd already talked about. And you can go and listen to that episode and get a great deep dive on Rising from the US. But
That's right.
a couple things to note, Julie. First thing up is the Pipedream acquisition. Now, Pipedream, I think, is going to play along with, think about Flowwise and Sana, right? All the things that are going to help you build. Now, Sana is going to be learning and focus on the UX and UI, but think about Flowwise and Pipedream here. These are solutions that are going to help you build agentic capabilities and integrate with them interoperably. So again, we talked about this on a couple different episodes, right? That the HCMs are kind of creeping into ERP, Workday for sure, by strategy. So is SAP, always been an ERP. But those are really becoming the launch pad for a lot of agentic orchestration and building and development and adoption and training, all of that, management, everything, right? The agent system of record at Workday. So yeah, just fits very nicely with that, and I think that solves as well some integration challenges with those things longer term. Another big announcement there was Workday Go
Right.
for global payroll. Now, this was a bit controversial, right? Remote was named as the partner for this for global payroll managed services in Europe. So, what you're effectively hearing here is that Workday Go is Workday's what I would call mid market play to help those mid-market companies get live faster with less cost, less friction, and hopefully step into a Workday model that is more affordable than maybe going the traditional path, right? And for some of the smaller businesses, it's been out of reach, right? It's complex, it's enterprise grade, but it's also a cost, right, to get that live. And I think Workday Go creates a very turnkey model for people, most organizations, to step into right away, get live and modernize, and then begin to build and expand from there. The challenge, though, in the middle market, as you know, Julie, is that in most, particularly in the U.S. and I know in the U.K., I'm sure in Australia it's similar. When you buy a mid market HCM, especially when it comes with payroll, which it should hopefully, you're typically going to be wanting those buyers typically want to see services come with that, at least some sort of a compliance level, last mile on your taxes and that sort of thing. So if you buy Dayforce payroll, if you buy UKG payroll, any of the pays, obviously that is coming along with that. And so Workday, being a technology provider, not a services provider, needs to offer that. Now, as you know, they have their marketplace. You can certainly pick and choose any of your global payroll providers that you would like. But fundamentally, going to market, Workday is saying, look, when we go out with the Go platform, in the US and Canada, the partner is OSV, One Source Virtual. And when they go outside of the US, that is remote. So congrats to remote, congrats to Workday. Everyone's going to be keeping an eye on this one. I think across the analyst space, this is Workday's entrance down market, right? And being able to make it more digestible. So we will see how this goes and how this progresses. And I'd be curious to see what you see, Julie, as you get out there in some of these RFPs.
Yeah, for sure. I think that'll be interesting. And then also there are other partners in the Go network, and I'm sure we'll see that expanding quite a bit
Oh, for
at
sure.
Workday Rising. Niyamo had some special alignment with Workday Go that they've been working on, and we see some of the integration partners like HR Path and Kainos that are part of that initiative. And so it's a whole new partner ecosystem, I would say, that's springing up for
Yeah.
the small and mid-sized
And
markets. That
yeah, don't forget, I mean, just in the global payroll space, you've got about 30 plus providers now in the marketplace. So any of those are available. And Workday has always been known for offering their customers choice.
yeah.
And look, some of these, some buyers are going to have multiple. It's just the norm. Maybe in some cases you're going to see more remote. Maybe in some cases you're going to see them leaning to Strada, ADP, whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Any of the fill in the blank partners. So
That's right.
very cool stuff.
I think key always with Workday is that certified partnership that's supposed to get, you some special
Yeah.
bi-directional integrations and more contemplated connectivity, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you guys saw this. If you were at Workday Rising, I think they might have showed this a little bit in some of the breakout sessions around the payroll products and the global payroll strategy. You might have seen them mention the engagement with Elephant Group, or Group Elephant, excuse me, which, as we know, is
Which
owns
has,
multiple things like
yep,
EpiUse and
FBUs and
Payroll Minds and some of these other solutions. They are very well known for their proliferation of localized payroll capabilities for the SAP platform. And Workday has teamed up with them to render something similar for Singapore. So that, I think, could be the door opening of more to come with
yeah,
Group
yeah,
Elephant. And I'm a big fan of Group Elephant. I think very highly of what they've built. Very unique culture and company as well. Very philanthropic. That's why the elephant thing. But very good at building these localized capabilities. And so I love to see that Workday is playing closer to them too.
that's
So
right. That's right. And
yeah,
usually that group is associated with SAP because that's where their bench
yeah,
strength has come from. So it's great to see them crossing over into some of the
yeah.
other
A
platforms
lot of
as
people
well.
don't know they have a Workday practice
That's right. That's
as
right.
well. And they do a few things there. They're big partners with ADP. They do a lot of work with ADP. Yeah, a lot more behind the scenes. Kind of the bridesmaid. Maybe you don't know their name. Powering a lot of this stuff and helping fill some localized payroll white spaces. So
For sure.
in big HCM. One of the other things that happened on the last day, interestingly, was never to be outdone. Deel stepped forward and announced a major expansion in its collaboration with Workday around global payroll, which includes Global Payroll Connect, right? The new GPC bidirectional integration that all of the vendors in the marketplace with Workday are working towards. They've also made an increased investment in their own dedicated Workday practice, which I'm sure is building on what they had with PaySpace. but also safeguard, right? This is a
I
big,
was just gonna say, you
yeah,
can't even have this
big
conversation
nod to
without
safeguard.
mentioning that Safeguard, went over into the
Absolutely.
deal folds, let's say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this was a big part of Deal's taking on Safeguard was putting them into that enterprise space, and again, a joint go-to-market motion here to align around enterprise buyers specifically. So very cool there for them in terms of not like I said, not, a lot of choice, right? You've got a lot of choice in the Workday ecosystem, and Deal Remote, Strada, our friends over there, are just some of those options. And Julie, there's two more things I want to point out that I think are very, very important to share. As you know, Workday is leaning on its partners to build sector-specific, localized capabilities, whatever, to fill those white spaces. And yeah, and with Workday Extend and Workday Build, you're seeing that, right? And so now you've got the EU Pay Transparency product coming from Kainos, one of their major partners, which I believe this summer, if I'm not mistaken, folks have to start showing progress with.
That is, I've been doing some newsletter blogging
Yeah,
around that as well. It's impacting a lot of folks and their time and
yeah,
attendance, and workforce
right.
management solutions too, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's touching a few things here. So this
Yeah,
is going to evolve, and then they also created some solutioning around the EU Data Act. So I don't know this off the top of my head entirely, but I believe it has something to do with maintaining data in the EU Union versus necessarily doing it offshore. And I believe, or I know, Workday already had servers and locations in Europe, to support their customer. I think they have three. I think it's like Dublin, maybe Amsterdam, and somewhere else, Berlin or something. Don't quote me on that last one, but yeah, so they're already kind of theirs, but they are obviously readying themselves to prepare, or already ready to handle that compliance piece.
that's
So
right. Just waiting for the
yeah,
panicked outreach from practitioners and
yeah,
leaders who are trying to get caught up.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
There's always something, man, when it comes to compliance, and yeah, big HR tech has to pivot and move, right? So yeah, lots of excitement there. I love Workday Rising Europe really because I have so many clients that go there. I mean, so many that go to the US as well, but also just the digestibility of that event,
yeah.
right? It's about a third or half, I'd say, and it's
That's
just a lot more easy to
digest.
navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but growing as well. We went to a bigger center this year in Barcelona, so that's positive, right? You're seeing a lot more engagement. Let's go into the EOR side, Julie, for a minute. Just
Okay.
staying on Deal, we should say congratulations, right? They just raised another 300 million Series E, which brought their valuation to an incredible 17.3 billion. I mean, in any space, that is really impressive. And so, yeah, wow, continually growing. And I don't know if you saw this, Julie, but in that announcement, they used a little bit of that cash to pick up Omnipresent, one of their EOR peers. So I would imagine I haven't briefed with them on that, but I would imagine that brought some entities. I'm sure some boots on the ground here and there. So yeah, interesting little quiet fold in. And of
Yeah.
course, as you just heard, they made the expansion with Workday. So
Is there a particular
yeah,
geography with omnipresent? Because a lot of their pickups have been, besides Safeguard, have been geographic, right?
yeah, I believe they were a bit heavier Europe, if I'm not mistaken. I worked with them a little bit years ago when they were younger. When their CMO Tara, I forget her last name, O'Sullivan. When Tara
Yeah.
O'Sullivan was the CMO, that was a long time ago. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think they leaned a little bit heavier Europe, maybe some Asia, but I don't recall. It's a good question.
Well, and listen, as if Deal wasn't already making noise just by, the funding series and then their
Yeah,
acquisitions and just being, pretty aggressive and out there in that way. We've now had more than one conversation recently where folks are like, I saw a Deal plastered all over the,
yeah,
airport or the, news media. And so you can definitely see that, name recognition sometimes is the tail that wags the dog. It's the leader
yeah,
for getting into, conversations that they
yeah,
wanna be
yeah.
part of.
You're right. I think we've had a few conversations where we talked about, HR and payroll and EOR and all of this sort of being mainstream now. You see it on the TGL at the golf. You see it on you've got Workday folks or UKG, whatever, at the tennis. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's good for the whole
Yeah,
industry, right? Bringing that awareness. So, yeah, a lot of spend. Some of that 300 millions definitely going to marketing
for sure.
as it should, right? As it should. So yeah, congratulations to Deal, and look, congratulations to global hiring and global EOR and all of that, right? I think it's
That's
good
right.
stuff.
That's right.
So staying in that world, Julie, let's talk GP Gia, now integrated with SAP. I don't remember if you recall this, but I think one of the things I said when we did a talk about GPG launching, and I did a little bit of an experiment with it. I
Yep,
think I
yep.
played around with Colombia or Romania or
I
something.
did a little playing around myself, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's legit. I've called it legit many times. It really is. And I think I said on that episode, this makes total sense to be integrated in HCM. I could see this being integrated in any HR technology for many, many ways. And I think this is the future of EOR. I really do. I think that the data fabric that EOR can provide and the vehicle to execute on workforce agility and workforce, what I would call fluid talent is probably going to be powered by EOR in a lot of ways, especially if it goes beyond borders. So I think there's a ton of them productizing their compliance and expertise that you're going to see more of likely
Mhm,
coming in the
mhm.
future, among other things. And I'm putting out a series of articles on the future of EOR, so you'll see that pretty soon.
I
But
think
yeah,
nobody knows that space better than you, Pete.
yeah,
Honestly. You covered it when no one else did, and there's just so much to it for sure.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
so
It's exciting.
The SAP integration is just a pre-built, or what was it about that integration that made
Well,
that made the news?
yeah, well, I think it's a bit more embedded, just as GP has done with Workday, and I think what you see is, I don't know if you saw this, but what worked or SAP and Deel had done a strategic partnership last year. They've gotten closer, so I think you're seeing that as a global payroll, global EOR supplement in there inside of HCM to help with
Yeah.
talent decisions and talent execution.
Okay.
Look, if you think about it, back when I first started studying EOR back in 2020, well, really in the teens, and then I wrote about it more publicly with the market analysis in 2020, was the fact that like how long before this would be integrated, right? It is a commingling challenge. The numbers are very small often. Does it make sense to integrate? And eventually I knew it would, but on what,
Right.
at what level? And I think this
Yeah.
is probably the best example of it bringing its data and insights together. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent.
Congrats
Okay.
to
Yeah,
GP.
congrats, GP.
They're always pushing the pace in EOR. Let's go over to Vensure Employer Services. I don't know if you're familiar with Vensure, down market player, very much hot on the acquisitions. They just hit their 100th acquisition.
Wow.
And I know, right? I don't know if people realize this. Some of it's been very quiet. Some of it they've been very notable about, right? They own things like namely Prism HR, ExecuPay, Implicity, some of these down market solutions that are either have been gobbled up by them and brought together. And I don't know if people realize how big of a PEO that they actually are, Julie, as well. So yeah, 100 acquisitions now, really building out a massive global conglomerate for HR and employer services. They're now, I was just reading over their press release. I haven't met with them since HR Tech. I need to go and maybe have another briefing, but they've now acquired in excess of 2.5 billion in quote accumulated enterprise value and expanded the company's reach to thousands of clients. Now 8,000 employees, 170,000 businesses, and 4.2 million employees worldwide. So very, very impressive. And that hundredth acquisition was Cree AI, a Mexican-based AI solution for HR that was already partnering with Vensure. So interesting there, right? To see what they're going to build eventually and replatforming all that.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about just consolidation, opportunities for
Yeah,
consolidation in the PEO space, continued consolidation. So
yeah,
interesting to watch it
yeah.
happen and play out.
It is, yeah, and it's very, it's very. I don't know. I don't want to say ADP esque or maybe SD Works esque, where there's a lot of acquisitions building out a bigger thing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where all this leads with them. All right, Julie. So let's turn over to the fintech world. We got some news coming out of that space this week. Well, this
Yeah.
month, I should say.
From our
Yeah,
Bitwage friend, right?
our friends at Bitwage. So shout
Yeah.
out to Jonathan Chester, who did a great episode with us on stablecoins and money movement and Bitcoin, payroll by Bitcoin, which is
Currency. Yeah.
still amazing. Yeah. So look, Bitwage has been acquired by Paystand. Very, very interesting here because Paystand, as you may or may not know, is a solution that is working towards a global autonomous financial network. So they do things like your typical finance, right? Your accounts receivables, your accounts payables, much of that sort of finance platform sort of capability. And now Bitwage is going to bring its capabilities for decentralized, right, cryptocurrencies, that sort of thing, and bring that over to that world and start to create a payment as a service option for them for global FX. So we could really see a lot of different things come out of here. Maybe we'll see another eBerry style, Convera style FX money mover. But yeah, really, I think this is indicative of what's going on with digital money movement, payments, finance. It's all really coming together in a platform solution. And Paystand is gone all in on that with Bitwage. And when you go to their website, you can still you can see all that there. But yeah, congratulations though to Jonathan Chester. I know he's been building for several years now. Very unique solution, and yeah. So the next chapter here for him is upon us.
Yeah, sure. And I think if anyone's interested, we'll be pushing out again the Bitwage episode that we did, that had a lot to say about cryptos and stable coins, and maybe using those for payroll, in addition to all the other global payments that might happen. So give it a
Yeah,
listen.
yeah.
It was really some cool fintech conversation.
It's fascinating, Julie. It is, and it's very much the future. And I think when you look at just the trends with embedded payments and embedded finance and embedded payroll, we talked about a little earlier, right? It's all becoming, much closer together, all in real time, which I think is so cool. We're settling things faster. We're using now, stable coins to move money in real time, instantly. I mean, you think about, we've talked about this here. My pet peeve, right? The 401k, getting that funds out of one account into the other account, total nightmare. We've seen some tech come along, but what a better use case for health, wealth, and retirement than cryptocurrencies and moving money digitally. I think it's just the way it's going to be. So very, very cool. Okay, let's turn our focus back to global payroll here again. SD Works, like Deel, right? At it again, man. At it again.
Always.
Always in the news.
Yes.
SD Works has now acquired Labor Consulting SRL. It is a payroll and labor consultancy company based in Regia Emilia and Parma, Italy. So basically expanding their footprint in Italy, which they already had
Yeah, they
a
picked up
decent.
a
Yeah.
big Italy FCA, was it, right? I
Yeah,
wanna say?
yeah, I think it was. You're
Oh, it
right,
was a while
and
back.
they've been on a tear too in the last 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, hell, maybe even further, going back to like a Detro and some of these others they
Yeah,
picked
yeah,
up.
oh, yeah, they've been on a huge tear.
But yeah, all right, but they're really becoming the pan European provider, right? I mean, really covering now 25 countries they're targeting. Plus, they've got entities and services and all of those. About 19 engines. I caught up with them about a month ago and was just kind of checking in on the progress there. Lots of replatforming certainly going on, but I think you can see, Julie. If you think about SD Works, right? Very strong managed services, just end to end HR, payroll, you name it, but also staffing capabilities, right? They picked that up several years ago, back when I was studying them as an industry analyst. And, I think you could see how they could very easily become a very prominent EOR player if they wanted to. Entities, engines, boots on the ground, expertise. I mean, they have what they need if they
Yeah.
wanted to do that. So
I think
keep an eye on that.
the real challenge for me is I always think of them as a puzzle, right? Because there
Yeah.
are so many components and they have been just
Yeah.
continuously adding to those. And so there's so many ways that they might fit. And it's unique for whatever platform. If you're a Workday user, an SAP user, things fit together differently over
Yeah.
there. And so that's always been one of the
Yeah.
interesting dynamics for SD
Yeah,
Works.
and look, their leadership knows this world, man. Shout out to Michael Custers. He and I have
Yeah.
worked together, and Kobe Verdonk, the
Yeah.
CEO, right? Former NGA guys I was with
Yeah.
there. I worked with them as analysts at other places in their careers. So yeah, I think they know this world. I think they know what they have, and they know what they want, and they're going and filling it out. So
That's right.
yeah, very cool. Congrats to them, and I'll continue to keep an eye on them. Very, very much a key player in the European region there. So, Julie, are you familiar with DarwinBox HCM?
Yes. Very, very
Yeah.
familiar. Yep.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. Very different, out of the box thinking. We should talk about them maybe someday. But hey, they've turned on native payroll for Singapore. Now I can't remember how many engines they have now. I know India. I know maybe some Middle East, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, so they're building out. Definitely
Yep.
coming this way in terms of showing up at U.S. events and getting more U.S. customers. So
Yep.
we will see as we go. But yeah,
Yeah.
Darwin Box now native payroll for Singapore.
Yeah. So for those who didn't guess from the Singapore and some of the other bits that you named, primarily kind of moving forth from Asia Pac into other geographies, right, and other regions. So yeah,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
their base is in
yeah.
Asia APJ.
Exactly. Yes. Now, Julie, let's switch over to our friends at ADP. Always
Yeah.
something going on over there. I don't know if you saw this at the end of October. They picked up an acquisition. They bought Pequity, a compensation planning solution.
Hmm.
which I believe is going to fit really nicely, most likely with Lyric and maybe even, I'm sure, some of their other solutions. But I bet this is probably going to lean into Lyric if I'm thinking about, just the way they're headed. So yeah, a little quiet acquisition there by them. So we'll see what they do with that. Obviously, comp and scenario planning, budgeting, going back to what we were talking about with UKG, right? Trying to give folks more insights on that, cost, budgeting, labor planning, all of those things. The more data, the better to help them make better decisions with their workforce. So very cool to see that.
Yes.
Also at ADP, I don't know if you saw this, Julie, and I know we covered this in depth, so I won't beat it to death, but they have announced that they have unified global workforce management across their HCM suites. So that means the integrations between workforce software, which is now the ADP Workforce Suite, are integrated with Workforce Now, Lyric, and ADP Global Payroll. And I'm sure, and I know there is much, much more to come. And we put out, I know in my article on Innovation Day, we did an episode on Innovation Day. We talked the WFM schedule. I put some of that in my article. I think you put some in your newsletter.
Yeah, and then I half
So yeah,
blogged on the other part and never got
yes.
that another one of my
So
50 half-written blogs every year.
plenty of resources on
That's
what's
right.
going on with workforce management over at ADP. I actually had someone talking to me yesterday about it. We were clarifying what the timelines were for various things. So check those assets out if you're interested. But that gives you more clarification on a solution level what the timelines are and how ADP is gonna support those. So good to see that
Yep.
coming to market. And then we got one more here from ADP that I want to point out that I'm staying close to and working with them a little bit on some content is around their embedded solution. As you know, ADP, look, they're the big 800. What do people say?
Yeah.
800-pound gorilla in the
Embedded
room.
embedded solutions. So I guess we're talking AI.
No, no, we're talking embedded payroll capabilities being brought to platforms that do not have payroll capability. And eventually,
Okay.
yes, you will see more time, HR, whatever. We've seen others in the industry doing it. But ADP is, really going to market with this now, embedding in systems, sector type systems, business systems. So, for example, Clover is a small business POS type solution for SMB, retail SMB. Clover has embedded ADP payroll in that solution. So Fiserv and ADP have a joint capability together that brings payroll where it should be in Clover, and it gives the business owner the ability to stay in tenant while they're working on things that are a very, very important part of running a business, right? Payroll. So it's really bringing payroll where it should be.
Hey, so do you know enough to know whether that's B2B or B2C, right? So what initiates that? Clover initiates that or the client using Clover initiates?
So it could be either, right? I mean, obviously, Fiserv is going to be selling Clover. That's going to have ADP included. And certainly ADP, I'm sure, is going to be out there selling ADP. And by way of, I'm sure they're selling, often coming across joint customers. But mostly it's going to be Clover selling ADP by way of Clover adoption through their Fiserv relationship with their customers.
That'll be a
Yeah.
fun one to watch, really, because I
Yeah.
know we're having, as frontline workforce becomes really important, there's been a lot of RFP work that we've done where there's some really complex integration with ERPs or
Yeah.
niche kind of industry solutions. And so thus far, I haven't seen a lot from the sales force on the embedded solution as an alternative way to approach things. And maybe that's because, it needs to kind of first have the B2B relationship.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think you have to think of it as this, right? Clover is a SaaS platform that Fiserv needs to sell. Clover needs more value, right? Or as much value as it possibly can,
Yeah,
as any solution can, right? And if you go back and we've talked about embedded on this show a lot,
that's right.
you go back and you think about, I think about, for example, my wife, right? She works in the transportation industry. They use one of three or four systems that most organizations use in the transportation industry, and they live in that system. And boy, wouldn't it be nice as the
Yeah,
business
yeah,
owner if
yeah.
payroll and time are
If
right
it
there in
happened,
front of my
yeah.
face as the biggest P&L. And what value is that to me when I can remove the friction of having to jump out to another system or multiple systems when I've got that embedded experience and I feel like it's literally native when in reality it's a very tight embedded integration. So a lot of value for both sides of this, and I think at the end of the day, it defrictions business for business owners, right, by
Yeah.
bringing these things closer together. So the point here is that I love it, right? I mean, we've already seen like Check HQ, right? We've had Jim on from Check. Check is one of the industry leaders in that. Paycor has done a great job of getting out in front of embedded in terms of the HCMs. I think you're going to see more of the HCMs break their solutions down and allow people to digest it in however ways they want. And if embedding that in another partner solution and reselling that way is how they have to do it, why not? Right? Why
Yeah.
not bring it
Yeah.
closer together? Think about something like this might be a great example, Julie. Think about something like Toast. Now, I've never used Toast. I was an investor of Toast, but
Right.
Toast was a POS that said, "Hey, why don't we bring more pieces and parts for the total business running of a retail, restaurant type establishment for the business leader?" And that's when they went and I believe either proliferated or bought time and attendance. And then later, I think they either partnered or bought payroll or maybe have some payroll capability. But look, if you're not in the payroll game, do you really want to do that? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, this is something Fiserv can offload to arguably the biggest provider in America, integrate their technology, get their security, get their processing capabilities, their expertise, and makes perfect sense for everybody. But yeah, I would say it is a B2B buy still, certainly at this point. And
Right.
I would largely say it's going to come by way of the SaaS partner selling into selling the embedded partner by way of that adoption. So yeah, very cool. Good stuff. Lots
Very
going on at
cool.
ADP.
You can always
Okay.
count on them.
Yes. I think also never to be outdone. Right there on their heels is certainly Paychex. Now they announced a bevy, if you will, a multitude of AI solutions this week that I think are. I feel like a little bit of this is behind the scenes. Not to say that customers won't feel it, but some of the things that they were doing was around agentic AI service capabilities on the back end of payroll. Doing a bit of AI data transformation capability work, employment law solution, right? They've got the employment law platform to help leverage Gen AI powered employment law and compliance expertise. And then, of course, they're using something called the Gen AI sales and service platform, which is a unified agent helping aggregate various insights across their sales teams and that sort of thing. So I think this has a bit of a behind the scenes tone that
Sure.
will impact the customers positively, maybe not directly in their face engaging it, but I would imagine these things will eventually roll deeper into the customer experience. And of course, you see them proliferating things in Flex, down market, and then of course the Paycor platform came over, still serving the up market. Both of
That's
those are,
right.
are are advancing as well. So makes total
Yeah.
sense, right? I think
Yep.
all of these vendors have to do, they got to tighten the belt internally, externally, and then of course bring it to their customers. So I think you're going to see more and more of this, right?
Yep.
Sharpening the pencil
Yep.
around the
Absolutely.
space. So, okay, let's stay in the AI world, Julie. I got a couple more here for you. This is a big one, and you might have some strong opinions here on this. Alight and IBM have teamed up to essentially bring basically a strategic collaboration that will pair IBM's agentic capabilities, Watson X, with Alight's work life platform, right? And that's a multi-year collaboration that'll result in a virtual R&D or innovation center, I believe, and it's going to bring a lot of AI enablement to the benefits administration modernization side of things. So I think this is much needed. I don't think work life has necessarily wowed anyone with some of what they've done so far. And I think injecting this partnership really makes a lot of sense. So I like it.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I do too. And in fact, I think you and I are working on having a guest that we both met through the IBM world back in the beginnings of the HRO
Yeah.
movement in the 80s. And so I can't wait to ask her a little bit about this and see if she
Yes.
has any thoughts. And there is quite a bit going on with the light outside of that, the financial situation, they continue to work on. I think there's some leadership turnover with Dave Gilmet. So a lot going on
Yeah.
there overall, and it's great to see a move like this in collaboration to kind of help bring some of these things to market.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
in
much
a big
needed. I
way.
yeah, there's a lot of new leadership at Alight. Again, I think that was needed. But yeah, I like to see this, and yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. And you're right. Yeah, shout out, just to tease there. We've got Mary Sue Rogers, former. I worked with her at IBM a little bit, legendary HRO executive. We also got Trey Campbell coming.
That's
Again,
right.
another legendary HRO executive, HR transformation executive. So. No, nice teasers there. We're looking forward to having them come on and talk about how in the heck we got here from where we started, man. So
That's
yeah,
right.
that's gonna be fun. Okay.
Okay, more in the AI world.
No, actually, let's see. Are we done? I think we got it, Julie. I think we've hit everything there.
At
Oh, and by the way,
least.
I will mention, I think it's important to note if you read, Alight is also client zero in that effort with IBM. So there's obviously, again, some internal work going on. I love seeing that. I love seeing vendors sort of, drink the Kool Aid first and then
Yeah.
go out and try to sell it to folks. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Good stuff.
Yeah, just a reminder though, when you get the use case that says we have a client live in this, sometimes that is the
That's them.
client themselves. And it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing to see, right? Like as you said, you should start there, but
No, I think you should
want to
expect
quickly
that.
progress.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, Julie, I got one last thing here, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it. The 2025 Global Payroll Complexity Index is now out and available. So I'm curious, did you see that? I know we had a teaser about where Australia ranked on that, but I'm just curious if you got to download that and check it out this year.
No, I haven't, but they've done it many years running, and so I'm super familiar with it and definitely, appreciate it. Did you notice any movement or you haven't gotten into it and dug in
Yeah, there
yourself?
was definitely some movement, man. We saw Australia as we have a podcast coming that popped. The US is still up there. But yeah, just it's getting harder out there. And I'm just curious
It
if
is.
you had a chance to check it out and chance to read that.
I have not, but I thought you were going to mention something else with respect to Strata. Now I'm looking at my little
Yeah, do you have
tickler
anything on that?
list.
Yeah.
I did. I had their partnership with
Oh, the
Syndio.
partnership.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it kind of goes, in concert with the pay transparency items that you rattled off a little bit earlier. And so they're definitely looking at that partnership for AI intelligence for pay and to, some of the more comprehensive pay strategy. That's where I thought you were going to go with that. So thank you for bringing up even another fun thing with respect to
Yeah,
them.
the Syndio thing really addresses the EU. Yeah, the EU pay
Yeah, yeah.
transparency. Yeah, yeah, that's good. So, top 10. Julie, what do you think are the top 10 where complexity is the norm, as they call it?
Oh, US, France, Brazil, Germany, maybe ANZ or Australia, I guess I should say. Very different
Okay.
countries.
Pretty
Uh,
pretty close. Pretty close.
okay. Who am I missing?
France was number 1,
Okay.
Slovakia 2, Australia 3.
Yeah, look at
We moved
that.
from 11th to 3rd place. Wow.
Thank you. Yep,
We
yep.
talked about that on our show with Ross, Heron, and you guys should look for that.
We
That's
did.
coming. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
Ross is
gonna say
doing.
it might come out until after this, but it's coming.
Yeah, yeah, a CEO of the excuse me, of the Australian, Payroll Association.
Payroll
Yeah, highlighted
Association.
just
Yeah.
how rough it's gotten there. So, yeah, lots going on there. Switzerland, moved up 1 place to 4th, Canada, steady at 5th, and the United States in the top 10 for the first time. I'm surprised by that. We're at
Yeah.
number 6, Julie.
Yeah, I figured we would. I mean, just think about leave laws and other things like that. I'm sure there are
Yeah.
other reasons for that, but how about Germany? Was Germany in the top 10?
Germany came in number 9, falling from
Okay,
2 to 9. So Germany's getting Germany's getting
better.
better. That's nice to
Or
know.
status quo while everybody else is blowing up and getting crazy.
All right, Julie, what do you think was the all right, let's see. They give you the top 40 here. All right, let's do this. Let's see. What do you think is the number 20 easiest or hardest? 20 hardest or easiest. I don't know how you would say it. Number 20 payroll. What do you think that is?
20
Any
out of
guess?
how many?
20 out of 40.
Oh, no, I thought we were gonna go to the bottom
All right, let's
ranks
go.
where,
Sorry,
like,
let's go to 40.
the
Let's go to 40.
UAE, I think, is, like, largely cash-based and has been done at the
Let's go.
bottom
Yeah, let's go
forever.
to 40. Malta.
Multi
Malta. Malta's bringing it home. Yeah, but your top 20 is rounded out by Netherlands. Yeah, number
Okay,
20.
not
So not
surprised, right?
not that
Belgium,
hard.
maybe? Is Belgium in there? They have some freaky little,
Yeah, Belgium's always been tricky.
registration things.
11, yeah, Belgium's 11. So, yeah, I mean, look, man, you can just see how this is happening, and remember what I
Oh,
talked about
quick
many.
scan,
Yeah,
Pete. How
go
many of
ahead.
those are Europe? How many of those are in Europe out of the
Oh,
top
wow.
20?
Let's see,
Probably, I'm gonna say
uh,
15?
14 of the top
Oh,
20 are Europe.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but 2 of the top 6 are North America. You know what I mean? So, man, we got it going, and Mexico's coming up, right?
Oh,
Mexico's now
no,
moved
that's
up,
so
so
sad to hear, but indeed,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not surprised at all, and the reason I'm not surprised is remember what we talked about multiple times, right? 2020, what was it, 4 when we went to the poll? When did we go to the polls? 24 elections?
24, yeah.
Yeah, late 23, I guess it would have been. 24, we had elections. That was one of the biggest in the world, right? Half the global population went to the polls, the EU Parliament, all of that. You had to know that there was going to be a pop coming, and I think we're beginning to see it in some of these places. And I would love to go back and correlate this to how many of these had large general elections that may have changed who was in charge. And even if it didn't change who's in charge, often your incumbents want to make their mark, as they're doing their things, and so you're going to get change, and I think you're going to see more and more of this. And let's be honest, right? I picked up on this in a couple of different places in the UK and some other places in my conversations. It sounds like many of the governments are very serious about going and getting the money they're not getting. In other words,
Yeah.
there's a lot of tax leakage happening where employers are not paying the proper taxes or not employing people properly, and that's revenue that's being missed out. They're missing out on. They're going to come get it, right? And they have AI too,
Sure,
so
sure.
you
And
know,
data in transit becoming easier. The US did it a while ago where our payroll deductions are submitted after each payroll. And
yeah,
we heard that with Australia in a podcast again that with Ross that'll be coming out. And so yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if we see more moves to that
yeah.
from other
And it's not
countries
just
and
taxes, right?
governments.
It's employment law. I think you're seeing a lot of different things. And look, in some ways, I think some of these countries are catching up, treating people properly, and that's okay. I'm I'm
Yeah.
all fine for that. What I hate to see is them suppressing business by having legislation for the sake of legislation, right? You could argue California or New York or some of these others. They make it very hard to do business, and
Sure.
that
And
I don't think you
costly.
want that, right? We
And
want to
costly.
gotta have a
That's
balance.
it's a huge problem to legislate a bunch of stuff, and then
It
that
is,
drives as we're trying to get more efficient, it drives, just greater complexity and a lot more hoops to jump through, and are we really getting value as a nation or a state or whoever
yeah.
the entity is out of those sorts of things?
Yeah, yeah. But you know who it's good for? It's good for the HR tech and services companies because the harder this is, the more stuff you need to solve for it, the more they're going to proliferate to help you. So that's a
Well,
good
hey,
thing too.
and
That's a good
skills
thing.
wise, nobody tries to get into payroll. Very few of our guests say they try to get into payroll, but many of them love the challenge and the complexities and the every day is a different thing,
Yeah,
nature of payroll. And so, for those of us that have that DNA in us, it isn't going away anytime
I
soon.
know. I know. I know. Well, look, it's good for job security, I guess, for a lot of folks in the value chain of that. But yeah, look, it's serious stuff, and I just hope more companies start to take this seriously and begin to invest. Right, that's what we
Yeah.
really need is to see that. So anyway, look, a massive, massive update. There probably could have been more we could have talked about, but I don't think we can touch on everything.
No, this is a lot.
Um,
This is a
yeah,
lot to digest, Pete. And,
yeah,
I know it's the very nature of what you do. And it highlights our news episodes always highlight wonderfully, what analysts do in the market and why they're so valuable and what
yeah,
sort of insights, they bring and the relationships they have to know what's coming up, what's on the horizon, what's happening in the product roadmaps is just a great
yeah.
service
It's such a
from
privilege.
you
It
and
really
from all
is.
the analyst community. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being a partner with me in this. Look, man, it is a privilege, and I mean, it excites me. I want to see all of this stuff in everyone's hands. I want everyone to have a great experience, regardless of what side of HR you're on. And yeah, I think there's some good stuff out there. We just all got to get everybody together with it. So anyway,
That's right.
all right. Well, look,
Okay.
Julie, anything else you got heading
No,
into the end of the year here?
I think this is our final news episode of 2025, and I know
It
we'll
is.
have more to come in 2026. I know we've kind of changed our format and unraveled it from the beginning of every episode, but I think it makes it easier to find.
It does. Yeah.
And if anybody has any feedback on that, or feel free to give us a shout out and let us know. We want you to like, listen, subscribe,
Yeah.
interact, engage with us. That's what this is all about. We don't do it for any other purpose than to share what we're hearing and to hear what you have to share as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well said. And we got a lot planned for 2026. So
That's right.
stick with us,
Yeah.
and we will be back very, very soon.